Shalum. Shalom and welcome. Welcome to White Robes family. My name is Symmanayah. And these words I present are words that I am compelled to present before an awakening, set-apart nation. Yashar'al, commonly known as Israel, or some will say Yisrael. My brothers and sisters, I am not referring a geographic location. I'm referencing an awakening, set-apart nation, chosen by the Almighty Father Yahuah. This is the 53rd segment of White Robes family. And I want to bring your attention to becoming complete, redeeming the time. Yashar'al, before I go any further, I want to say this. Let us be mindful that it was the Almighty Father Yahuah who created the rainbow. Consider Genesis 9 chapter, verses 13 through 15. It marks a covenant between him and the earth. Look at all the trees in the fall, and look at all the different colors on the planet. Look at the fruits and the vegetables. Look at the splendor of our world as created by the Almighty Father. And you will know that he is the Aleph and the Tah. He's the beginning and the end. And though wicked elements will try to grab colors and grab other things that were originally presented to us by the choice of the Almighty Father, do not believe my use of colors is to represent anything wicked. I use colors that have been provided by the Almighty Father to send a message. And this specific color, purple or violet, my brothers and sisters, it is the symbol tabernacle. For if you take red, representing the blood of the Yahusha Mashyach, and you take water, as referenced sometimes as the blue waters upon the earth, red and blue makes purple, my brothers and sisters. With the word and the blood, we have the tabernacle. We have our representation of the Almighty Father. And what it means, O Yashar'al, is within this tabernacle dwells the Almighty Father. In the name of Yahusha, our spirit have been revived and joined with him. We have been drawn to the Almighty Father. Tabernacle is important, O Yashar'al, not just to look at it as a feast time, but to look at it as our earthen vessels, as our tabernacle, our earthen vessel as the house of the Almighty Father, deserves to be clean, deserve to reflect what's inside. And I say to you, O Yashar'al, the discipline that is promised in Hebrews 12th chapter and Revelations 3:19 and others, when they come alive, that lets you know that the Most High will discipline his children. He will bring us and teach our spirits how to manage these earthen vessels to reflect set-apartness and to demonstrate worship and obedience to him. So make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, do not shy away because I use colors. For in every color, there is something to gain, something to realize. But I use colors as I am compelled, or I should say as I am permitted to do, to aid in the memorization of much regarding set-apart maturity. And if you look in my earlier videos in White Robes family, you'll see how I attached some colors to each feast time. That's if you're curious. That's if you are drawn to understand. With that said, my brothers and sisters, there is a sequence with some exceptions where I will use the colors and align them with a feast time. And those exceptions would be special playlists, messages that I've been given to insert on this channel that's out of the normal sequence will show a different color. But that's neither here nor there. Yashar'al, do you know who you are? Do you know the makeup of your physical body? That there is an inward man, a spirit within, and it is that spirit that will be with Yahusha Mashyach forever. Before I get into talking about becoming complete, redeeming the time, let me read the disclaimer and let us move on into this subject matter. Warning and disclaimer: the information contained in White Robes family represent instructions and warnings to individuals who believe they are drawn by the Almighty Creator, Yahuah, to Yahusha Mashyach. As written in John 6:44. The content presented centers around end-time realities. Please be advised this site is not intended for children under 16 years of age due to its content. And I must put that clause in there to be compliant with various media platforms that I am using and I don't own. By continuing forward, my brothers and sisters, you agree to hold Symmanayah harmless of any influence and or actions that arise as a result of watching, listening, and reviewing the content presenting. The views expressed do not reflect the owners, management, and or shareholders of this media platform. Also note that I am not affiliated with anyone or organization with similar names. With that said, Yashar'al, becoming complete. Becoming complete. Let's set the stage, my brothers and sisters. End times are here. Let's face it. There's nothing we can do about it. We cannot change it, my brothers and sisters. We cannot hit rewind, pause, nor can we stop it, my brothers and sisters. It is here. Something that has been foretold since the dawn of the days, dawn of the ages. Look around. I'm quite sure, my brothers and sisters, that your spirit is stirring. You have questions. You're seeking answers. You may even seem a little bit overwhelmed, my brothers and sisters. But know this, the Almighty Father Yahuah, He knows all and He sees all. What if the Almighty Father manifests His word in the person of Yahusha, came and hung out with us, and then said, well, I've seen enough. I hung out with you guys enough. I'm going back up. I'm going back to where I came from. And didn't complete His task. First of all, we know that could not have happened because it was foretold. Because the original scriptures in their original text sent the message of what the plan of the Almighty Father is regarding His children. So first of all, that will not happen. But if that would have happened, the plan would not have been complete. What if the Almighty Father allowed just a blob to spit out of the mother's womb with no limbs, no eyes, no head, no arms, no lungs, just a piece of skin and a heart beating, no nostrils? Would we have been complete? Okay, that's an extreme. I get it. That's an extreme. But what during these end times, what if you find yourself getting with a community, a group, a camp, a fellowship, and learning about the scriptures, but as end times ramp up, you have no clue of how to identify the Spirit of Yahuah, sending Yahusha's name, directing your footsteps? Would you be complete? What if you had no full understanding of what to do because you succumb to someone that says any day now we'll be raptured? My brothers and sisters, you see, lies have a dead end. Lies represent things that are not complete. In other words, if it's not finished, if it's not completed, a lie somewhere have seeped in. Distraction somehow have seeped in. Wickedness have somehow seeped in. You see, we are in spiritual warfare, my brothers and sisters. With each ticking moment of the clock, with each movement of the sun, the moon, with each rotation of the day, comes movement. And for us, my brothers and sisters, becoming complete, the ultimate position of being complete is when we face physical death. We would have completed this journey as we know it. We would have expensed or redeemed the time as we know it when physical death comes. But I say to you, Yashar'al, it is important for us to recognize that end times will prove the importance of becoming complete. In other words, the Almighty Father has specific tasks, positions for every member of Yashar'al. Every member, there's a specific task that the Almighty Father has for us to complete, my brothers and sisters. And he will give us the instructions, the discipline, the power and the might, the resources and supplies to complete every task. Becoming complete is something that is important for us to begin discussing, talking among one another, my brothers and sisters. Let's get into some scriptures. For some might say, all you're doing is just talking. Show me some scriptures. Okay, I get that. Let's take a look at some. My brothers and sisters, time moves forward. Discern the life in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 through 27. Come with me, O Yashar'al, to Proverbs 4th chapter. Proverbs 4th chapter, verse 23 through 27. Proverbs 4th chapter, verse 23 through 27. Let me read. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the sources of life. Turn away from you a crooked mouth, and put perverse lips far from you. Let your eyes look forward, and your eyelids look straight before you. Consider the path of your feet, and all your ways are established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Turn your foot away from evil. Could it be, my brothers and sisters, these are wise instructions given to us, O Yashar'al? Could these be wise instructions given to us to avoid distractions? Could these be the words that come alive, that influence a sense of direction, a sense of purpose? My brothers and sisters, I think so. I believe so with all my heart. Becoming complete. If we're busy looking back, if we're busy spending more time on history, on genealogies, on debates, how then can we focus on the instructions, the refinement, the discipline, the preparedness that the Most High presents before us for such a time as these? Colossians 4:5 say, walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, redeeming the time. My brothers and sisters, how are we redeeming the time? Let's start with discerning the seal. The seal is the blood of Yahusha. And some of you might be saying, well, what are you talking about? Or what does this matter? My brothers and sisters, there was a Passover that occurred when Yashar'al was in Egypt. It was a Passover when they put blood over the doorposts, and the messenger of death spared the lives of the firstborn of Yashar'al. But not so much so for those that did not follow the instructions that were given. by the Almighty Father. Not so for those who are outside the purpose of the Almighty Father. So there was covering. And then we see the ultimate Passover is the Passover of Yahusha HaMashiach, the shed blood of the Lamb. That is the seal, my brothers and sisters. Just as the Passover in what is called the Old Testament during the days of Moses spared the lives of those whom the Most High had chosen to use in demonstrating his deliverance for his children, so we recognize the seal of the blood of Yahusha. We will recognize those that are his children, those who are called to fulfill much during these end times, those who are mainly called to fulfill the final Exodus will realize the seal that is mentioned in Revelation 7 chapter is representing our knowledge, our acceptance, our confirmation and reaffirmation to the seal of the blood of the Lamb, Yahusha. I say to you, my brothers and sisters, we will walk in obedience. We will recognize an obedient, set-apart nation rise up with the seal, meaning recognizing the blood of the Lamb of Yahusha and protected by his power and might. Consider these words, O Yashar'al. Revelation 7 chapter verses 1 through 3. Revelation 7 chapter verses 1 through 3. It reads, "And after this I saw 4 messengers standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree." Does this describe a degree of calm occurring for a period of time? Holding the 4 winds of the earth, that they wouldn't blow on the earth, nor the sea, nor any tree. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. There may be, and there may have been, a calm before the storm. Let me continue. 2nd verse. I'm in the 7th chapter of Revelation. "And I saw another messenger coming up from the rising of the sun, holding the seal of the living Almighty One." Could it be, my brothers and sisters, that this is representing, that this messenger is holding up Yahusha HaMashiach, all that was promised? Because it said, holding the seal of the Almighty, the living Almighty One, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 messengers to whom it was given to harm the earth and the sea, saying, "Do not harm the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our Almighty One upon their foreheads." My brothers and sisters, could this mean that in all thought and action, we will reflect the power and might of the blood of the Lamb, Yahusha? You see, it says, holding the seal of the living Almighty One. And I say to you, O Yashar'al, the seal is the blood of Yahusha. You see, my brothers and sisters, if we were to visit, my brothers and sisters, John 12:32, I believe, it says here, "And if I am lifted up from the earth, shall draw all men to myself." Here John is quoting the Mashyach, Yahusha. "I will draw all men to myself." My brothers and sisters, and it goes on to say, this he said, signifying by what death he was about to die. Much is said. No man can come into the Father except through Yahusha HaMashiach. So I say to you, O Yashar'al, the seal is recognizing the blood. So those who struggle with accepting Yahusha HaMashiach, those who consider themselves non-messianic, but are drawn by the Almighty Father, will see that the Father is drawing them to his word manifest in the person of Yahusha. The Almighty Father, those who are our brothers and sisters, we will see that the Father will draw. In the name of Yahusha, Yahuah will draw us together as he disciplines us. And that seal would be together in unity. We would recognize the blood of the Lamb and respond. There is importance in knowing this during these final days. Let's continue. My brothers and sisters, in John 3, 5, and 6, it reads as follows. Yahusha answered, "Truly I say to you, unless one is born of water and the Spirit, he is unable to enter into the reign of the Almighty One. That which has been born of the flesh is flesh, and that which has been born of the Spirit is spirit." Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, have you given thought or prayer to what it means to be born of spirit? Have you given thought or prayer to the responsibility that our inward man has to this tabernacle? To manage it, to direct it, to use it for the magnification of set apartness in the name of Yahuah. In the name of Yahusha, let us recognize, my brothers and sisters, praying without ceasing, communicating with him, leaning on him, will bring about such a magnificent beauty. Are you not aware of how it's written in Psalms about how beautiful it is for man to dwell in unity? You see, my brothers, there's work that is going forward that leads up to Resurrection Day, that leads up to that transformation where we put off the corruptible and put on the incorruptible. But who among us, who has given prayer to the importance of becoming complete and redeeming the time? Who has given prayer to the actions that we do are bringing us to completeness, to those final days we have where we will take our last breath in these earthen vessels? It is time, O Yashar'al. It is time for us to begin to discern what the Almighty Father desires from us, individually and collectively. What say you, my brothers and sisters? Have you considered the actions of each day? What have they contributed towards the building up of a set apart awakening nation? Let's look some more at scripture. My brothers and sisters, consider the life regarding becoming complete. Becoming incomplete. Becoming is an action word. Something is occurring. Complete describes something that is finished, something that is accomplished. Becoming incomplete. Said becoming complete lets you know that we are doing something that brings us to completeness. In each of us, my brothers and sisters, we will witness loved ones die between now and the physical return of Yahusha. We will witness widespread death and destruction in the coming days as end times become more intense, as diseases ramp up, as famine and pestilence ramp up, as wars begin. My brothers and sisters, let me read some things because I think it's important for us to begin to learn why we must begin to focus and understand the importance of becoming complete. John 17:4 says, "I have esteemed you on the earth, having accomplished the work you have given me that I should do." This is John quoting the Mashyach, Yahusha, as he prayed before the Almighty Father. He said, he having accomplished the work. You see, there was some completeness. Here it was right before it led up to the sacrifice and resurrection. So this was a point in time, identifying a period of time where he had accomplished the work that he was to do. Proverbs 11:19 says, thus righteousness leads to life, and one pursuing evil to his own death. So, my brothers and sisters, as we pursue righteousness, as we grow into righteousness, as we look forward, as we have our focus becoming keen to identify when the Spirit of Yahuah is working in us, through us, one towards another. When we see the Spirit of Yahusha, our Mashyach, as our teacher working in us, and we begin subjecting ourselves one towards another, we begin to demonstrate righteousness, a righteousness that leads to life, a righteousness that is good as we move towards completeness, as we move towards being complete. But it says here, one pursuing evil to his own death. You see, there's a different descriptor to one who's doing things that are wicked and evil. Our description of what we experience and what is going on from a set-apart perspective is different, way different than the action of one that is not a child of the Almighty Father. Let me continue. Proverbs 12:28 reads, in the way of righteousness is life, and in its pathway there is no death. You see, my brothers and sisters, we have been given life by the Almighty Father, life everlasting. And we will grow to recognize the treasure that we have in this. My brothers and sisters, do you honestly believe that we don't have an obligation to work towards becoming complete, finishing the work that we have been assigned, finishing the work? In some cases, some of us are being refined and prepared, and we will wake up one day surprised at the orders that the Almighty Father has given us. Some of us will struggle and fight with excuses. Some will try to protect their own egos, their own pride, hidden agendas that they have fallen victim to, thinking that they're in charge. But many among those who are called, who are chosen to fulfill these final days, O Yashar'al, will find deliverance in the judgment and discipline that comes from the Almighty Father. And as it comes from him, he will pour it out through his chosen ones. He will speak the words that are necessary to refine us, to strengthen us, to fortify us for what's ahead, O Yashar'al. Have you given prayer? Again, I ask, have you given prayer to what's ahead? Yashar'al, are you aware that as the clock ticks with each passing day, this plan we're in belongs to the Almighty Father? And within that plan is a schedule. Who among us has given prayer to the Almighty Yahuah's schedule? Who among us realize that there are details and processes that require precise timing? My brothers and sisters, let me read something here. Matthew 24:22 says, and if those days were not shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the sake of the chosen one, those days shall be shortened. Should we not seek understanding to what the scriptures mean by the days will be shortened? Should we not seek to ask Who is it speaking to? Could it be to those who will be participants of watching their days be shortened? Could it be those who are part of set-apart family, to pray for those who will be demonstrating that they are in the midst of days being shortened? My brothers and sisters, you hear me talk about ask questions all the time. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, I ask questions, many questions, even more questions. And I believe, O Yashar'al, that the Almighty Father responded with an answer. Consider when moving across the planet, there are different time zones. Those who move from the furthest western point towards the promised land will find days are shortened. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. If movement begins and you are in Hawaii and you started heading east to Jerusalem, Jerusalem is 12 hours ahead of Hawaii. And you'll find throughout the different time zones, if you're moving eastward from the western hemisphere eastward, our days become short. And I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, there's even more. I submit to you, Yashar'al, I believe the Almighty Father opened my eyes to see what lies ahead for his children in the world. And it's a reflection of the words I present before you. My brothers and sisters, the days will be shortened. The Almighty Father has a schedule, and he has seared important days in our minds and spirit. One specific day is a day he set apart out of all days, and that is Shabbat. You see, the Almighty Father has a schedule. He brings about, O Yashar'al, routines for us to be mindful of. Consider Exodus 20th chapter, verse 8 through 10. It reads, remember the Shabbat, to set it apart. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work. But the seventh day is the Shabbat of Yahuah, your Almighty One. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, we will discover, I just read Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 through 10. We'll discover, Yashar'al, that there's only one way to guard and honor Shabbat, the weekly Shabbat. And while there are different beliefs, as for me and my house, the position is morning to morning, we will measure a day. And on that seventh day, morning to the next morning would be Shabbat. I'm not here to argue nor debate, but I believe I am charged with being a component to the gathering of Yashar'al, to the bringing of unity among those who will fulfill the final Exodus and so much more in the coming days. I believe I am charged to contribute as the Most High directs my footsteps, my mouth, my actions, my love for his set-apart children. I believe, O Yashar'al, that there are those who will come to yield to morning for the weekly Shabbat. Anything outside that measurement is not guarding Shabbat and its completeness. If you are guarding Shabbat from a different time, you are outside the obedience of the Almighty Father. And I say to you, O Yashar'al, who's listening, make sure Make sure you've chosen the right community, the right group, the right fellowship. When it comes to the schedule of the Almighty Father, when it comes to guarding his Shabbat, when it comes to being completely whole and doing what is correct. For I believe without a doubt, O Yashar'al, as we come into unity, those who are outside of guarding Shabbat and its correctness will be disciplined and corrected to the truth, in or left behind, or called to their grave. You see, and I'm talking about brothers and sisters, those who are drawn by the Almighty Father. So those of the outer court, I'm not concerning myself with, O Yashar'al. These words are to you who believe you are drawn by the Almighty Father. Look in the mirror. Look at your belief. Study the scriptures. Search the scriptures throughout. Seek to discern the watchmen, the leaders, the true chosen mores, teachers, pastors, bishops, shepherds of Yashar'al. Seek to discern those who are of wise counsel. For there will be leaders who will come into the truth, O Yashar'al. They'll come into the truth, and they will begin, my brothers and sisters, they'll begin to yield to what is correct. They will demonstrate the patience that it takes to search the scriptures thoroughly and completely to identify true Shabbat. Part of becoming complete, O Yashar'al, is understanding how we should guard and obey the 10 Commandments, his laws and statutes, his living instructions and directions for his set-apart nation. Part of becoming complete is doing all that he has asked, have ordered of us, O Yashar'al. You see, end times bring about a time of orders. End times bring about a time where we will begin to recognize it's not wise to say, well, if we do this, if we do that. Because we will realize that there will be those who will face certain consequences as the Most High discipline his children, as judgment begin at the house of Yahuah first, which is us. We will recognize that those being led by the Spirit of Yahuah, to these will demonstrate that we are indeed the sons of Yahuah. Consider Romans 8:14, O Yashar'al. Let's continue. Becoming complete. Don't you want to finish the work that the Most High have for you, for me, for us? Consider all that he is doing. Consider the favor received by each breath, by each moment we live. Come with me, O Yashar'al. Exodus 20th chapter. Turn with me. Exodus 20th chapter, Yashar'al. My brothers and sisters, I cannot stress enough why is it important for us to recognize the importance of time, what it means by becoming complete. I cannot stress enough why we must seek to discern the schedule of the Almighty Father, for he waits on no one. Let me read, O Yashar'al, why it is important to recognize Shabbat. You see, even in all the plans that's occurring, Yashar'al, Shabbat is still something that is of major significance. Major significance. You see, as movement come, my brothers and sisters, as movement come, we will begin to realize how many will wish that we had decent weather when it occurs? We'll realize why the Mashyach instructed us to pray that our flight do not take place in the winter or on Shabbat. If you want to know what I'm talking about, consider Matthew 24:20. Matthew 24th chapter speaks on end times and signs of the times. And there's a verse that reads in the 24th chapter of Matthew, verse 20, that says, and pray that your flight does not take place in the winter or on the Shabbat. Or on the Shabbat. There's a schedule, my brothers and sisters. There's a schedule complete with plans. Plans that the Most High have laid out before his chosen ones, for his children. There are end time plans that require us to recognize time, how to redeem time, and still recognize Shabbat. This message is not about arguing over Shabbat. I presented to you my position as I believe I am led. Make sure you're confident in the position you have regarding Shabbat, because as death and destruction come, those who are gathered from the four corners of the earth, those that are brought into unity, will guard and honor Shabbat at the same time and recognize the definition of Shabbat. Those who do not will either face reproof and correction and come into the light of what is true, or be left behind or taken home, be amongst those physically killed. During the devastation that end times bring, O Yashar'al. End times will prove that all plans of the Most High will begin to join together to represent his whole plan. We will discover why becoming complete happens over time and how some have more time than others. Some are being fashioned, disciplined, trained, readied for when mass gatherings begin to happen in such a way. And I'm not talking about mass gatherings for entertainment. There's a lot of conferences and summits and meetings. There's a lot of entertainment and scheduling going on, my brothers and sisters. Yes, this is a prophecy summit. This is the end time summit. This is the Passover. Yeah, make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, while many are celebrating or honoring or fabricating a documentary or a movie, while many are doing all these things that are not focused on the preparation for what is about to happen, though they're doing that, my brothers and sisters, make no mistake, there are those that are called, those who are chosen to focus on the preparation, the training for what must and will come to be during these end times. So there are those of us who realize what becoming complete means. And we hunger for his word. We hunger for his instructions. We hunger to understand and discern what we must do to improve in worship and obedience to him. What say you, O Yashar'al? Becoming complete over time. Death knocks on the door for some, physical death, which is actually sleep. For you, my brothers and sisters, it's a rest until resurrection day. But for those of us who are functioning in these earthen vessels, to those of us who are recipients of physical life, let us recognize during these end times, the Most High is moving us to completeness, to finish the work that he has ordered us to do, that will reflect the coming together from the four corners of the earth, that will reflect a contribution to the rise of the 144,000 Hebrews, Abrahym, along with a great multitude, as mentioned in Revelation 7th chapter. We will recognize that plans are unfolding to bring about the rise, the emergence of something we've read, we've spoken of, and that we believe will occur. There will be no pre-tribulation rapture, O Yashar'al. Becoming complete. It happens over time. And I say to you, some of us have more time than others. And some of us, unfortunately, because of being bullheaded, egotistical, and stubborn, but yet desire to serve the Almighty Father, will find that he will take us home. When I say home, I mean these earthen vessels will go back to the earth where they came, and our spirit will go back to him, wherever he places us, and that's a place of rest until resurrection time, a place of sleep. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, time. Are we walking in wisdom? Are we seeking to redeem the time accurately? Are we caught up in distractions, the drama of the outside court? When I say outside court, I'm talking all things that are not working towards the good of the Almighty Father. That's the outer court. Those are distractions. Though they may entertain the ear, the physical ear, they are like tingling brass and cymbals, making a noise, and that's it. The time for us to focus, to look straight, to discern what the Most High is before us. It is time now to begin discussing how to look forward, even in the midst of a loved one dying, even in the midst of a celebratory moment or season. Look forward, O Yashar'al. The time is now to look forward. What is the Most High saying to you? Why did he give you breath today, this moment, to live? It's time for us to stop taking for granted what the Most High Father Yahuah, in the name of Yahusha, has given us, his children. Stop taking for granted the breath that he's given us and recognize it is time to believe and know that he is directing us so that we will come to the point of embracing that we are becoming complete in him with each passing time, with each passing moment. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, White Rose family has a plan. White Rose family, I believe that this plan contributes towards the bringing together of a set-apart nation. I believe that this plan will contribute towards deliverance, relocation, and lifestyle changes. It will reflect there will be those included and those left behind. My brothers and sisters, I mention this with White Rose family numeric episodes. I mention this towards the closing of each one of those, with the exception of special playlists, special videos that have been set aside outside of this sequence. Wouldn't you want to know who you can call upon when you call upon the Almighty Father? Do you think that he just will respond just in pure spirit alone? Or do you think that he worked through servants, that he works through us, that there may indeed be set apart, chosen leaders? Wouldn't it be refreshing to know who those leaders are so that you can call upon them with your questions? At the very least, they demonstrate how to pursue discerning the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah, responding. They provide wise counsel. The plan of White Rose is to identify the chosen leaders of Yashar'al and make them known to the body as go-to leaders, chosen, proven to have been vetted according to the Spirit of the Almighty Father, by the Spirit of the Almighty Father, working in us in Yahusha's name. You see, not leaders because they say they are Moreh, not leaders because they say they are elder, not leaders because they say they are pastor or bishop, not those who just grab the title, but those who demonstrate the power and might of the Almighty Father in their actions, in their words. Those that demonstrate knowing how to speak in wisdom. I say to you, White Rose family believes that there will be a plan executed that will bring this show. Wouldn't you like to know if there was an information center a resource center, a go-to place, virtual or physical. I believe the Almighty Father is building that. And you have the secret cliques and the secret camps justifying their words of being secret. Make no mistake, O Yashar'al, during these end times, you will want to know. Inquiring minds of the Almighty Father will want to know, what do they need? What instructions, what supplies, what resources are needed, and how to use them as good stewards. Wouldn't you want to see a team of individuals with diverse skills that's saying if we're taking a journey, a trip, that we have at least 1 or 2 or 3 individuals that are mechanically inclined in case a vehicle was to break down. 1 or 2 or more that at least structurally sound in mind and can put something together to help in transporting brothers and sisters as we find ourselves facing movement as widespread destruction comes. Wouldn't it be nice to know brothers and sisters who understand what it is to be a mentor and teach the young or the uninformed or the newly entrant into that skill set? White Rose Family Plan offers that. Wouldn't you want to know? Don't you want to know? If you believe it's going to be a gathering from the four corners of the earth, don't you want to know where, how, what source of transportation, when, who? I say to you, O Yashar'al, and I'll say it again, the exit point for those on the Western Hemisphere will prove to be the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Virginia in the United States. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. I have a segment called The Closing Scroll. And I believe if you take the challenge and mark an X, you will discover a virtual arrow pointing to the promised land, pointing to the true Mount Sinai, which is currently known as Jabal al-Lawz, located in northeastern Africa, or located in the northwest quadrant of what is now known as Saudi Arabia. Wouldn't you want to know, my brothers and sisters, as you begin to travel entire, as widespread destruction and death come, as your emotions and mental state, our emotions and mental state are challenged, wouldn't it be good to know where can we safely stop, freshen up, and fuel up? You see, I believe the Almighty Father will order some to stay in specific places until such time as widespread destruction comes, and will face physical death. Keep in mind, the scriptures say it rains on the just and the unjust. But wouldn't you want to know the safe zones, brothers and sisters with leadership who are directed and confirm what I just said about leaders being led by the Spirit of the Almighty Father? Wouldn't you want to know so that you don't step into somewhere where you should not be? Wouldn't you want to be in a situation where there's continuous guidance and support for completing this journey? That there's continual guidance for this inner court life, this life of set apartness, this life of coming together in unity to magnify the Almighty Father, to lift up Yahusha Mashyach, to witness him draw all men to himself. And that being the intersection where we come together is Yahusha. Make no mistake, O Yashar'al, end times are here, and we will find ourselves, those who are physically alive, being gathered to where we're supposed to be. We will witness the included, and we will see there will be those left behind. We will learn to recognize what it means as we are waiting on Yahusha Mashiach's physical return. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, all things come with a cost. Let us learn to count that cost, O Yashar'al. Let us learn to use the skills, the health, the finances, the resources, the supplies that we have for the betterment of Yashar'al as we come together, as we awaken, as we demonstrate the flow of what is necessary to fulfill all that has been made before us, all that is necessary to become complete in fulfilling what has been written and expected of us, O Yashar'al. Remember Matthew 25:14-30. Yes, I say use it or lose it. Yes, there are those of you who say, well, that's not a good way to ask for support. My brothers and sisters, if your spirit is stirred, you see, I believe the Most High hardened hearts and softened hearts. And if I be a servant of the Almighty Father, all that is needed for me to accomplish what he's directed me to do will come to be. There are those of you whose heart will be softened. You will support White Rose family, and there are those of you who will not. As for me, I must press on. But I am convinced, if you don't ask, no one knows. Will you support me? Will you support me as I move to flow in obedience to the Almighty Father? Have I presented realities and truth before you, things that must be considered? Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, subscribe and share, for there are benefits to the body of Yashar'al by you subscribing and sharing what you hear. But only do so if you believe the messages I present help strengthen and build up the body of Yashar'al. Would you consider supporting, contributing, or investing, whether it be resources, supplies, skills, and or money? Or you who have no desire at this time to serve and worship the Almighty Father, but believe it is something that is good, consider sponsoring the plan of White Rose family. Consider sponsoring and contributing and witnessing to something that will prove to be of benefit to a set-apart awakening nation in the coming days. I have set up Cash App under White Rose family. Do as you believe you are directed, my brothers and sisters. Do as your heart and mind guides you. You can also contribute through PayPal, but I ask that you email me and I'll give you instructions on how to do that. My name is Symmanayah, my brothers and sisters. It is my duty and my desire to serve and worship and obey the Almighty Father. I can only do so and press forward with each passing moment, O Yashar'al, becoming complete, redeeming the time. My brothers and sisters, there are 2 other videos that I'm going to present before you. 2 other videos that I will put in a special playlist, my brothers and sisters, that I think, no, I believe complements this message of being complete. Becoming complete, redeeming the time. Then there will be one, my brothers and sisters, under judgment, warnings, and instructions. My brothers and sisters. And then there will be one under the closing scroll. Yes, Yashar'al, I want you to listen and look out for these, for there is much more to be said, much more to come. And you'll see them in the playlist, and you'll see that I'll mention this segment here, becoming complete, in the one dealing with seated and seated, and one dealing with quarantine, trapped, and free. The realities of end times are here, my brothers and sisters. And remember, the Almighty Father is the Almighty One. He has given us the freedom to use our hands, our minds, our bodies, our spirit for benefiting Him. Now, though wicked ones have come up with these different hand gestures and say, oh, he got his hands folded. Oh, he did this, all that. Seek to discern, my brothers and sisters, the spirit of a matter. And because wicked ones have taken colors to use for their gain, because wicked ones have started using hand gestures, who is the olive and the tar? Who is he who given us the freedom to move about freely? Are we constrained? Are we shackled because the wicked one wants to pervert what is good? Let us know what is good. Let us recognize what is good. And let us walk in the liberty that we have through Yahusha Mashyach and yield to his spirit flowing in us, through us, one towards another. Each passing step, my brothers and sisters, each day that comes represent our walk as it relates to becoming complete. And those who will die a physical death before our very eyes, they would have completed their task. Now, whether they did a good job or not, that's up to the Almighty Father. Some of us would have witnessed one's actions before they face physical death. But make no mistake, each day brings the opportunity to serve the Most High with more correctness. Make no mistake how we redeem the time. You see, my brothers and sisters, soon and very soon, we will witness brothers and sisters and say, I wish I would have done this. I should have done that. I should have gotten some oil for my lamp. I should have gotten some water, fresh water. I should have understood what it meant to get certain non-perishable foods for travel. I should have exercised a degree of discipline to grow in discernment so I can discern a brother or sister, so I'll know how to vet and identify those as urgency ramps up during the end times. Gonna be a lot of I should have, I would have. But I say to you, O Yashar'al, don't consume a lot of time on the should have and I could have, because the clock continues to tick forward. Let us redeem the time by looking forward, saying, what am I to do now? What am I to do today? What should I be doing going forward? And in expressing that question and seeking those answers and receiving those answers and growing in discernment, you will find that the plate is endlessly full, that the cup is overflowing with set-apart instructions, O Yashar'al. Pray on these matters. I thank you for your patience, your tolerance, your pursuit of set-apartness. I invite your fellowship, your communication. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, our redemption draws near. And those who are true to the Almighty Father, those who are drawn, those who are lifting up Yahusha Mashyach, will witness a set-apart awakening nation come together. On that note, I say to you, becoming complete, redeeming the time, let these words echo within your mind and spirit. Discuss them with a brother or sister, your leader, or if you are a leader, listen to this, discuss them. Discuss these matters with your flock, becoming complete. For each of us must know what is expected, individually and collectively, from the Almighty Father. In the name of Yahusha, I salute you and I say to you, O Yashar'al, Shalum.